Okay, perfect. Welcome everybody here. We have actually a few JDL team members. Today we have a few people that were not able to join the meeting. So the group coaching meetings we have on Tuesdays and Thursdays, currently Tuesdays at 5 p.m. and Thursdays at 12:30. I understand things come up and I respect everyone's time. I would like to ask though, if you're seeing this video after the fact and you're currently in the program at this time of April 14th, just do us the courtesy, if you could, of giving us at least, an hour or two notice if you can or can't make the meeting. We're still going to have the meeting regardless. So like today, we're still going to continue to have the meeting. And what's going to happen is if this circumstance happens, which by the way, it's happened before way back when I was doing, getting out of the gate, doing group coaching and mentorship back in probably 2015, 2016, we've had a number of meetings where unfortunately people couldn't make it. So I'm okay with that, but I'll tell you an interesting story, right? And this is a story I'm going to share today. And we're probably not going to do this kind of activity today, but I want to share a story though about showing up. I showed up, and at the time, this is probably 2018, I think it was, maybe 2019, and one of these meetings like this for the group coaching that I was doing at that time. And it was a handful of folks, just like we have now, a handful of folks in the program, and nobody can make that meeting. But I still showed up to the meeting, okay? And what I decided to do was, I said, since nobody else is here at this time, let me utilize this time to show the team how to show the people in the program how to do this. What I wanted to show them that night anyway, which was reaching out to people on the MLS or on Zillow and calling up real estate agents. And so I want you all to look, and the team here now and folks listening to the message can look up 73 Mine Street, M-I-N-E Street in Flemington, New Jersey. If you look up 73 Mine Street, you should see that the purchase price was around 160 and the selling price is around 360, I think it was. I'll tell you about the project in short, but I'll tell you that it was that meeting when nobody else showed up that I was there by myself, literally, no Suzanne, no Joe, no Dee, nobody else like the team members we have here was there that day. And I'm literally doing a monologue, but what I decided to do was screen share. And then I got my phone out. What did I do? I used my phone and I went on speakerphone. And I literally showed in real time, like for the recording purposes, of what I want clients to do, which I know works and I've seen work on my own time, but I wanted to show it by actually doing it, right? Implementation focused. And what did I do? I went on to Zillow. I went to Flemington, New Jersey, which was nearby the office we had in Hillsborough at that time. And I looked up real estate agents. I looked up actually listings. I went in reverse order of pricing from least expensive to most expensive. And I literally went down the list and I clicked on each of the listings that were out there listed on the market. And I called the real estate agent and I said, hey, this is Douglas Beck with JDL Ventures. I'm a professional real estate investor reaching out to you. Look like you have a property over here in Flemington. I'm interested in more information. Is that property still available? And I went through the whole process. And I'm not going to reiterate the whole process. If you guys are interested in that process, you can find it in the 30-day challenge group, or you can find it in another video that we've done, or you can ask us the question, how to have that conversation with real estate agents. But what happened was that meeting was on a Thursday, I believe it was, maybe a Wednesday. I'm not sure which day, Thursday or Wednesday. I had the conversation with the real estate agent. His name is slipping my mind. I think it was it William or I can't remember his name, but it was a gentleman that's pretty active in that market, like been in that market for like 30 years, right? But we had never talked before. And it's unfortunate we never talked, but I'm glad we did though, because what happened was I asked him some questions on the phone. The property was listed at 190. I do remember that. It was dropped from 200, so no big deal, 10 grand of a reduction. That property was housing a very elderly person that was basically on her deathbed. It was very sad. Moving on to a nursing home, and the family was getting her out of the house, and there was a ramp on the front of the house. If you look up old pictures of it and stuff like that. The point is, though, that property, I should say, became a deal for us that basically I negotiated over the phone, and then I also set up an appointment the next day or the day after that to go look at the property. But I literally did everything that we coach on, and I did it in a meeting by myself, just like this, when nobody else was able to show up. And I'm not saying that to sound like important or like that. I'm just saying like literally showing up and doing the work every day will yield results. And if you follow the script and the process, if you would, like there's not a script per se, quote unquote, like it's a process. It's a fluid process. It's a science, but also an art. This business of real estate investment, this business of anything business, really, business in general is scientific and artistic. But I didn't really use a lot of art in that process. I literally just did the scientific part. I showed up to the meeting. I did what was supposed to be done. I made a few phone calls. I connected with this guy, had a property. I had a bunch of questions. We recorded it. It's available. Probably if you go back and look at some of the video repository from back then. and essentially went, made an offer over the phone, told them kind of direction where I was, asked them some more questions, said, hey, look, I'm not where you need me to be, but maybe we can meet up at the property and see if I can get any better, any stronger of an offer. I went under contract. The way we structured that deal was that JDL Ventures actually went into contract, and then we weren't sure if we were going to wholesale it to somebody else or if we're going to take it down as a rehab. So we did build in a wholesale fee for JDL Ventures in the pricing. So I was able to negotiate a price for JDL to buy it at that was low enough that we still justified buying it at Douglas J Development. 2 different companies, 2 different teams, 2 different business models. So actually we made 2 deals there. One was between JDL to DJD, and one was DJG to run the renovation, own the property, renovate it, and actually sell it. So I think rough numbers, we were probably into it for like 180. We got it under contract for 160. We were into it. I think we wholesaled it for $20K from JDL to DJD, which is a whole nother topic. If you guys have a question about that, we can talk separately one-on-one. It's too complicated to go into now. You can structure deals like that if you set up correctly legally, and you also have the right disclosures to people and people know what's going on. And essentially that deal was funded with hard money and private money. We borrowed the hard money. We raised the private money. We renovated it for about 75 to 80 grand. The project took a little longer, unfortunately, than we thought. It's a different story. Darren actually, believe it or not, was helping facilitate the renovations on that property. So he had some crews going. So he's another part of that story as well. And then we put it on the market, and give you like a fast forward. We went on the market, I think at 350, and we had an offer that we accepted. I want to say like 335. We thought it was pretty decent, pretty solid. Our target was 325, but we went a little higher because we thought the market was going to be, way better, which it was, and still is now, even more probably. That buyer fell through, but then ultimately went back on the market. Rich listed the property. So those of you know, Rich listed the property. He's a real estate agent as well. We relisted it, and we got an offer over asking at 365. So then we ended up selling it at 365, and the rest is history, so to speak. But it all came from being present in a meeting like this. So how cool is that, though? And I thought it would just be a good story to share because, I'm ready for these kind of things to happen just because of the experiences we've had. And I can share stories like that are anecdotal, but also real life stuff. Where even if, you have a meeting, let's say someone's listening to this message, tries to meet with somebody else, and they don't show up. Well, what are you going to do? Are you just going to go back and play video? No, I'm not saying you're doing this, but play video games, talk to somebody just for fun. Like, are you going to do the work though? Are you going to put in the effort? Like, are you going to take it serious enough to go out there and make it happen? And I would challenge you all here now, but also those that listen to the message later, to do the work. No matter who's looking, what's going on, don't like half-ass it, basically. Just get it done, right? Because, it matters. I mean, if you're serious about this, you got to make it happen no matter what, no matter who shows up, how they show up. If you're there and you can do it, make it happen, pretty much. So I wanted to share that story. I hope that's helpful for the team here and also for those that listen to the message later. You guys have any questions or feedback about that story?
I'm loving it. Being present created a friggin' 6-figure windfall. And you were just trying to show an example live. So, yeah, that's powerful. Just show up, man.
And the thing is, like, the unfortunate reality is that if the people that were supposed to be in that meeting, like, none of them had conflicts, but if they were there, one of them potentially could have got the same property under contract the next day, because I wouldn't have had time to do it, So it actually kind of worked in our favor, which is kind of funny, but like, it wasn't on purpose, right? It's just coincidental. But that just shows you, like, if you're not doing it, somebody else is going to do it, If you're not putting deals together, someone else is going to find a way to put the deal together, right? If you're not closing business, it's not a question of like, do deals exist? Like, there's opportunities out there. The thing is, there's less of them. But if you don't know by now, this is for really the clients of ours, right? But for you guys to know too, like, opportunity exists, but you have to figure out how to create it, if that makes any sense. Like, you have to morph it into an opportunity. You don't just get it handed to you on a silver platter. Like, no one's going to walk up and say, here's a check, please take it, You got to think about, how do I use my skill set? How do I use my resources? How do I use my experience to apply myself in a way and be present, like Joe said, and be implementation focused? Go out there and execute and do it no matter who's there with you doing it. You're by yourself, you're with a team, you're with other people, whatever. You make it happen. And I promise you, over time, everybody's time is different. It just depends on various factors here, like how good you are, how much you do. If you're making offers, a lot of things. Also, people wonder why they're not putting deals together. Right? This video, by the way, I'd like this video, just to make a note, I'd like this video to go into the 30-day challenge. I think it's a good video for the team and the people there, because a lot of folks that come into our 30-day challenge, nothing against them, but they don't have the commitment necessary, the financial commitment necessarily, to take it as serious as they really need to. And they need to hear a message like this probably more frequent than they do from us, because signing up for something, right? Signing up for a 30-day challenge, signing up for a mentorship or a coaching program is only so far that you can go with that. You could pour money at whatever. You could buy the service. Joe and I were talking before about some different things we're looking at. Like we could buy this thing, that thing, spend thousands, tens of thousands, $100,000. But ultimately, what are we going to do with it though? Is it meaningful enough? Is it going to help us propel forward, or is it just going to be another thing we put on the shelf? You know? So that's the question. And like really, if you're finding everybody here and anybody that listens to this message, if you're finding that you're not having the kind of success that you know you deserve, that you want, that you desire, that's there, think about how much activity you're putting in and what kind of activities are you performing to get to the result that you want to get to. Are these things congruent? Are you doing the right things at the right time with the right people? And the right part of it, the quote unquote right part, needs to be figured out by asking questions like maybe of yourself and also the people around you that support you to grow. Who are the right people? What are the right things? When are the right times to do it? Like, for example, those of you that are putting deals together, like, again, may not be the group here, but people that listen to this message, if you're trying to put together real estate deals and you're talking to people that are homeowners, are you going to call them at 8 o'clock in the morning? Probably not. Are you going to call them at 12 o'clock p.m.? Probably. That's a good time. It's lunchtime. People take a break. Are you going to call them between 5 o'clock p.m. and 7 o'clock p.m.? Absolutely. Even though it's around dinner time, people are out of work. They're on the road. They're willing to talk to you. You don't call them at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when they're sitting at their office doing something for work if you're trying to put their property under contract. Interestingly enough, though, real estate agents is almost the opposite, right? Because real estate agents, if you think about that, agents are usually having lunch meetings probably with potential clients. So if you call them at lunch, they're probably not going to be available. If you call a real estate agent that's a full-time real estate agent during the hours of 9 o'clock in the morning until about 11 o'clock in the morning, or between like, let's say 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that's probably some of the best windows to call a real estate agent, right? If you call them after like 8 o'clock at night, they might answer the phone, but they're probably not going to want to do business with you because they don't want people bothering them in the middle of the night. If you call them on the weekend, they might be out showing houses. They're probably not going to be as available. But it's like a question of who, what, where, when, and why, right? Pretty much like, who am I calling? What am I calling them? Why am I calling them? What am I calling them about? And why? And I said why already, I guess. What am I forgetting? Who, what, where, when, and why? Where and when, I guess. When and where. But you're going to call them wherever you're at. Like, that's the thing. I'm sitting in my office right now. I can call somebody on the road. I can call somebody when I'm down the street taking a walk. I can call somebody when I'm at the office downtown. I can call them wherever I'm at. That's the beautiful thing of having to do phone work. Phone work, can be done wherever. So the question, I guess, the thought-provoking question is, are you present? Like, you can physically be present, but are you really fully present though, right? And I'm asking that to the people here. Are you hearing this message? I hope you are. And then if you're hearing this message after the fact, are you present also? Are you listening to this? Are you getting it? Is it making you feel a little weird inside? Like, are you getting a little riled up because you're like, man, this guy Doug, he kind of sees what's going on. He understands, like, I know what to do. I've had people tell me to do it. I've been going through these different things, these programs, these videos I'm watching online for whatever I'm watching, whether it's Doug or somebody else talking about it, but I'm still not getting the results. And man, he's talking to me because I know that I'm not showing up. I'm not showing up enough. I'm not showing up with the right people. I'm not doing it at the right time. Like, that's why it's not working. Okay. So I want to share that. Any other thoughts from you guys? See little head nods. Cool.
There's no two ways about it, Douglas. Being present in whatever it is that you're doing is just optimal.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I'd also like to add to the opportunity bit because opportunity comes whether you show up or not. But eventually, what Douglas said, someone else will. So, especially what I noticed with real estate and investing, timing is literally everything. So, like what you mentioned in that phone call, it pretty much worked really well for us, but it could have also worked a lot well for someone else if they had chosen and decided to show up. So, yeah, it's a very good thing to actually learn about.
Awesome. Dee, do you want to add anything else? We'll give you the opportunity. If not, it's okay. I just want to make sure you have a chance there. Hop in.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Good. So I think just to pull that together. So then the question is, okay, so for the folks that are clients of ours, right? And this is not to knock you for not being here today. That's not what I'm saying. I want to be clear. I mean, people aren't able to make it for various reasons. And a lot of times because of a conflict or a family obligation. I've been there before. I know what it's like. I got 3 kids and I have my wife and I have myself. I have other people besides business people that I have to work with, as far as friends and family members further away from me and stuff like that I have to deal with certain situations. So I get it. The question goes back though to prioritization, I think, as well. So another little nugget I'll share today, just for us to take away from the team here, is we talked about this internally a couple of times, but I think our clients may not hear us talk about it too much. Quick notes about prioritization, right? There's two main drivers for devising a prioritization of something or something, many things, right? So you have the one thing is the importance of it, right? Importance we'll talk about specifically, but let's just talk about the two high-level things. One is importance. The second thing is urgency. Okay, so think of it like this: this meeting needs to be seen for the folks that are from the JDL side that are going to be here every week, needs to be seen as both important and urgent, in the sense that it's a time that you be here that's important, not so much the urgency, like I have to be there, rushing around. Like, that's not what I'm saying. Not like going to make it a disaster for you, but it's super important because you're going to plug into the concepts like we're talking about that might give you some fringe benefit to what you all are doing, like we're doing today, helping you do more of what you do on a daily basis, but also understand what our clients' challenges are. So the importance is there. The urgency is there because it's a certain time of day that it's scheduled for. Right now, the thing is, when you think about other things in your life, for example, calling people, we'll just say that open-ended, calling people. We go back to the question of who am I calling and when am I calling them and how often do I have to call them and who do I have to call first and who do I have to call next after that. So it's like, if I have 100 people to call, right, for example, I need to think about the importance of each of those 100 people in the order of the most important to the least important first. Importance gets prioritized in my book first. I mean, urgency has to. Urgency is going to take the ticket, if you would, and trump, if you would, importance sometimes because it's that urgent. But you really need to think from an operational perspective, execution-wise, of importance first. Because importance is also typically congruent and parallel with impact, right? So like if I call this person, the importance is so high that when I call this person, the impact is tremendous. Like, it's going to lead to profit. It's going to lead to revenue creation. It's an income generating activity. It's a high probability of whatever you're trying to sell or offer. And that's whether it's a seller, a buyer, an investor, a potential client in your business, one of our clients, for example, calling somebody who's a potential client for us, et cetera, et cetera. So importance usually needs to be put first. Urgency should be derived by your schedule and by the way you set expectations, right? And so, meaning, like, if you're not operating with a calendar, that's one problem. We need to operate with calendars. We need to honor our schedule as best as possible. Obviously, things come up, but we need to honor that calendar. When you have importance and you need to define urgency, importance can be a consideration that helps define the urgency, because when you say, who do I need to call and when do I need to call them, I want you to all start thinking, like, literally put in 15 to 20 minute blocks, just like I have on my calendar. Put those on your calendar. Like, call this person at this time. Block it out for yourself, whether that's a client that I'm talking to or one of the JDL team members. Like, if you look at your calendar, right, your calendar should theoretically be filled during the hours in which you're operating as executing work for yourself and your business. And if it's not filled, you're allowing there to be fluidity there, which is okay. But I would rather the fluidity part, like Suzanne sees my calendar and Joe probably sees it, maybe D sees certain parts of it. Like, I put blocks on my calendar. So blocks serve a purpose, though, because blocks are purpose-driven, protections on my calendar to honor time that I need to do other things besides talk to people and or meet with people. And so if you're not doing that in your day-to-day, right, whether you're an active real estate investor, you're one of the JDL team members, you're one of our clients, you're a business owner, whatever, why aren't you honoring your own time? Like, you need to be protective of that time. Time is limited. Time is the most limited resource that we have, really, when you look at what we're given in life. Like, everything else is in abundance, whether you believe it or not, right? Money is infinite. And because money buys things that are value driven, it's basically anything you can buy is also infinite, available to you. It's just so much how much money you have available to buy it. Time cannot really be bought. The only way to buy time is by actually hiring people, right, and paying people for their time, or investing in people to put their time in. You get them an incentive to be part of that investment. So when you think about that and you think about your time, my question for everybody here today, and also for those listening to after this, is how are you currently controlling and managing your own time? And when you layer that against the being present, are you really present in that time that you've then planned for yourself? If you put on your calendar, be fully present. If it's not on your calendar, you can't be mad that you're not fully present, because you're going to have it on your calendar. It's not even really a meeting for yourself. You don't even know it exists except until you show up to it. So another way of thinking about this is, like, let's say you're doing a bunch of calls, like some people that are doing seller phone calls. You're calling out for real estate investors, trying to reach out to sellers directly, reaching out to real estate agents directly. You don't need to put in every single call that you're going to make, like, down to the 5-minute or 1-minute mark. I'm not saying to be ridiculous. What you want to consider doing, though, is create time blocks also for that that activity. Okay. So create a time block for 30 minutes to an hour, we'll say. What's reasonable without taking a break, just be on the phone, dialing until you connect with somebody. And then when you're done talking to somebody, see how much time you have left. If you have less than 5 minutes to do it, then you can call one more person, maybe, if you feel comfortable. But if you have another meeting coming up right after that, you have another commitment that you made for yourself coming after that, probably don't call somebody. Use that time to debrief a little bit, maybe what happened in that last call. But make sure we're controlling our time, right? Because that's going to determine how it feels to work whatever you're doing every day. If you don't have control of your time, you're going to feel out of control. Period, point blank. If you don't control your time, you will feel out of control. When you plan your time, think about impact and importance, like I said first. Urgency will follow. Urgency is a product of planning or not, basically. You guys get that? Like, if you don't plan, you're going to have a lot of things that are urgent because it wasn't planned for. Unplanned activities create urgency over the period of time that passes that it wasn't planned correctly, period. So when you plan more and you plan your time, you block your time, you protect your time, you honor your time, all the words we're using here are kind of the same thing, then you're going to have less urgent things. And if you have less urgent things, don't you think your day's going to feel a little bit more smooth and more controlled and more rhythmic? You know, some people, when they look at how they operate their day, they even narrow it down to like what time they wake up, down to the minute. Like, I'm not that level yet. I'm thinking about it, trying to get that maybe more control as far as when I wake up, precisely down to the minute. I'm more like within a half an hour window typically in terms of what time I wake up. I sometimes go based on how I feel that day. If I feel good, I'll get up right away. If I don't feel as good, I'll kind of slow myself, get out of bed, maybe take it easy, whatever. But this, I'm talking about in the middle part of your day. Typically, most people operate in business in their middle-ish part of their day, you know, from like 8:30 until whatever time you finish for that day. That's what we're really kind of talking about. But I just want to share that with you all today. I know it's a little bit different, but I think the opportunity that we were presented here when folks were not able to make the meeting actually allowed us to create some good content for you all that you can go back and listen to, and which is going to be a benefit to everybody in the program and also for the team at JDL, I think, as well. Any other questions or comments?
I'll just make a comment, Doug. I actually appreciate having that reiterated to someone like myself, because we do have to respect our time. We do have so many different things pulling us in different directions. If you block out, for instance, I make a lot of outbound phone calls. You really do need to block it out. Otherwise, any little distraction, you're going to make one call, two calls, be distracted, and go back to the third call, forgot what the first call was about, cloudy about the second call. Yeah, it makes a big difference to block it out and stick to it. That's the key. Stick to it.
Absolutely. So with that being said, again, Dee or Suzanne, feel free to jump in if you have a quick question, but I want to say right off what Joe said there for a second. Within the JDL sort of sphere of what we use every day and also what other people should consider using, there's a tool called HubSpot, right? We know what HubSpot is at JDL. Those of you that are clients of ours may not know what that tool is. Check out HubSpot, right? When you have some time, this is for the clients I'm talking about. But within HubSpot at JDL, and for someone that's using HubSpot as a business owner, right? If you have a business, any kind of business, I would strongly recommend you to get HubSpot or something like HubSpot, because it's more than a contact list and a management of people. It's actually there's a lot of features to it. But one of the things I like about it is that you could use HubSpot this way. Whereas, let's say I have a time block from 1:15 until 2 o'clock to make phone calls about whatever, right? Whether I'm talking to potential buyers, investors, sellers, whoever. I know that I'm going to be calling people during that 45 minutes. If I'm inside a HubSpot, right, and I'm actually using the web browser version of HubSpot, we'll say, I can go into my contact list inside of HubSpot, and I can click on the first person I want to call. And now this can be done different ways. You could filter down. You could use the different property fields in terms of data filters or all that kind of stuff. But you literally just go down a random list of people. And I can click on that first person, and I click on call. Right inside of HubSpot or inside of whatever tool you might be using on your computer. We also have Ring Central, but it's a little different because Ring Central is just like a phone out and phone in system. It doesn't really have a tracking mechanism for that call. Whereas HubSpot, this is where I'm going, HubSpot will actually allow you to track the notes from that call, which it sounds basic, but it's actually very powerful. Meaning when I'm on a call, first thing is I'm hands-free. I want to be hands-free when I'm on the phone. Okay, this might sound nuts, but just how I operate. I want to be on speakerphone, have a headset, or have a microphone in front of my computer with a room that I can talk quietly in without having to use my hands to hold a phone. Ideally, right? Now, sometimes you have no choice because you're out and about and you don't have all that set up and you're like walking around, whatever. But most of the time when I'm on the phone, I'm hands-free. If I'm hands-free and I'm talking with my mouth, that gives my hands the ability to then to do what? Type. So as I'm talking, I'm going to take down notes. Where am I going to take those notes? Well, I'm going to take them down in the same tool that I'm calling out of, which is HubSpot. So I'm in HubSpot. I'm calling XYZ person. At the same time, they're saying stuff to my questions I have for them. I'm typing in notes. I'm putting in additional fields. I'm marking stuff down. If I'm talking to a seller and I'm asking about their property, I'm going to take notes as I'm talking to them. I can do some handwritten stuff if I miss something, if it's going too fast and I can't type that fast, whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm inside the tool that's tracking the call I made, plus the notes that came from that call and the outcome that happened. And the cool thing with HubSpot is you can also create a follow-up task. Once you had that first phone call or the next phone call, you can set up another reminder task to have the next phone call. And if you want to go even further than that, this is another little feature JDL may not even know. In HubSpot, if you have tasks that are actually managed correctly for your own personal tasks, you can go into the task section of HubSpot and you can actually run those tasks in sequential order when they're scheduled for. Meaning, like, I can have a task to call Bob Smith, Mary Sue, Mary Jane, whoever else, like down the list. And if I set them up as tasks, I literally go to my task management section in HubSpot and I can click on go and it will pop up their contact profile of all the tasks that have been tracked to those particular contacts. I click on go, I click on call, I go, I take the notes, I click next, it goes to the next call I make. I click go, next, and then so on and so forth. So that's a system that you guys can all utilize if you're at JDL. And also those of you that are not on the JDL team that are clients of ours, you can borrow the same principle on whatever system you're using, or you can have us help you do that with something like HubSpot. If you'd like, we can work on helping you set that up if you want to do that. My final thought for today, and then I'll open up for final questions, is just something that I talked to Joe about a little bit and also Dee a little bit on Tuesday night, and Suzanne probably was there as well. A summary version of our Tuesday night conversation was the following. In business, and this is more of a business coaching conversation and sort of consulting type conversation, but it's relevant for you as a real estate investor as well, hearing this message. There's three main buckets as I see it with business, and other people have said this in different ways, but there's marketing, there's sales, and there's fulfillment. And if you think of marketing and sales as being part of the funnel meaning like from width, the wide to the top down to the narrow at the bottom, where leads are coming in the top of the funnel and they're going through a process to qualify, which is why the width of the funnel represents a number of leads, gets smaller and smaller until the bottom is one. And that's a customer, right? Whatever that means in your business, whether it be a seller, a buyer, an investor, or a client of some other sort. Out the bottom comes money. Well, the qualification process, usually in the middle part down to the bottom, is basically where sales kind of operates. And we'll talk a little bit about that. The top part of the funnel is where marketing pretty much operates, right? And a lead comes into your marketing funnel, i.e. a website or i.e. some other page, whatever, on the internet or on an email. At that point, you need to start thinking about using systems like we use at JDL, different systems and methods to qualify systematically to go from a very wide width at the top to quickly, boom, get down to the narrowest possible form to get the qualified candidates, only those qualified for whatever I'm offering, as quickly as possible to go from really wide to diagonally sharp cut in middle. I want the funnel not to look uniform all the way down. See, if the funnel was represented by the width of my screen the whole way down and never changed, that means I'm not qualifying at all. I want to put in barriers to qualify as quick as possible. So if you kind of see my hands, I don't know if this makes sense, but if my funnel is starting like this and I want it to go down like this, I actually want it to go more like this. You see the difference? Like I'm going from really wide at the top of the screen to as quick as possible without moving down the funnel to narrow, you see? So the way you do that, though, is first off, you can start off with a smaller number of leads coming into the funnel, which is something I was talking to Joe about with Facebook ads or whatever ad strategy you're looking to do. Ads, depending upon how the copy is written, depending on how the ad is set up, and depending on who the people you're targeting, for example, whatever ad you're running, will determine how many leads create that topmost part of the funnel. So you could theoretically spend a lot of money and kind of waste a lot of time dealing with the wrong people, which is not what I'm saying to do at all. That's going to have a really unruly and not necessary width at the top of the funnel. You don't want to waste that money and time to get that part of the funnel. You want to have it to be narrow enough, but wide enough, and if it makes sense, like the right quality leads coming in, right? What you think might be somebody who's interested, let's say. Like they expressed enough interest and had said enough things that were relevant enough to make them possibly a lead for you, whatever business model you're talking about. But even though they're possibly a lead, do they qualify to be a buyer of your service? Do they qualify to sell their house to you? Do they qualify to be an investor into your deal? Do they qualify to be a buyer for your wholesale deal or a partner in construction or whatever it might be? Okay, from the top of that, what you think might be quote unquote qualified lead, you got to go and ask a bunch of questions as quick as possible, ideally through systems and process to go boom, right to the middle. Now, all this up here, these are just kind of like customers that are not really customers, that can never be customers, so they don't qualify. From here in the middle, boom, down is where you want to get to. And that's where sales will operate from this narrow part of the funnel down to get it, boom, as quick as possible down to the bottom. So it's a little bit visual and sort of metaphorical in a way, but I hope that kind of made sense as far as what you want to do there. What we find, though, in our business even is we have a pretty wide funnel as far as our contact list. But the thing is, if I have, let's say, 4 or 5 different profit centers, like I'm wearing the title company shirt today, for example, not everybody who's in my JDL list is going to be a potential customer of the title company, because if they don't have a transaction, they're not a customer. And if they don't ever have a transaction, they're not ever going to be a customer. So if they're not in the business of real estate, the chance to be a customer is like 0, right? If they're let's say they are a title company, well, the chance is probably 0 also. Like, I don't necessarily want to target those people that would never be a customer. I want to target the people that could possibly be a customer. So if I target those ads to those possible customers, and then I put in some specific questions like things that matter to them. Like, for example, Joe and I were talking about pain points. Hey, are you tired of dealing with title companies that don't know what they're doing, that can't get things done fast enough, that don't have a system that's reliable to move the process from the time you make an order to get it closed within 5 days or less if you needed to close that fast? Like, I'm saying that quickly, but those are the kind of things like, are you tired of slow title companies, title companies that have to have everything over email, don't answer the phone, don't ever talk to you, don't have anybody who's knowledgeable, don't have any technology-driven processes, nothing like that. That's a lot of what title companies have. They don't have those things. We have those things, for example. So we want to kind of hit the pain points of any customer, right? And if you're talking about a seller, you want to get motivation, right? So that's kind of connect the dots of real estate investors. Motivated sellers have a pain point or multiple pain points that's requiring them to move faster, usually, and to take less of an offer, less of a price, but to get something done faster because they're up against the wall. Here's the thing, though. My final thought for today is this. I hope that kind of makes sense. Here's the challenge we face in 2022, April 14th of 2022. The number of motivated sellers that each of us listening to this message could possibly reach today is the least it's ever been, in my opinion, than it's been since I've been in the business. Truly motivated sellers are not in a prolific sense at all right now. There's an extreme shortage of that. And why is that? Well, it's because of a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons why is because the folks that would have otherwise been motivated have been given the assistance that they need to not have to be motivated anymore. If somebody helps you with a problem, and it's the government in this case, for example, and I'm not going political here, I'm just telling you straight up what's happening. If the government's been helping these homeowners stay in the process of owning the home, even though they don't really deserve it based on their financial situation, and now they're not having to leave their house, not having to go into foreclosure, not having to face these unfortunate truths, they cannot make their payment for a year or two, they cannot make their rents, and then the landlord, now that's going to create a problem for the landlord. Landlords that aren't collecting rent, if that rent situation doesn't get fixed, they're going to have to go into foreclosure too because they can't carry the debt on the property, or they're just sick of dealing with it. So a lot of the assistance programs have held up the supply. And this has created a real problem for real estate investors and real estate in general, because it created a massive amount of inflation. I truly think it's inflation. It's not real, right? Okay, there's some elements of that might be real, but a lot of it's inflationary, meaning that it's not going to suffice to last, right? Inflation is driven by economics, but stability is driven by actual real life, like need and demand. Okay. And what I'm saying is the shortage of supply that's been sort of created superfluously by assistance programs that have been not necessary, in my opinion. I'm not going to go super political, but a lot of it's over the top. Okay. And excessive. It's now created a massive shortage, and coupled up with a really cheap cost of capital in all fronts. Mortgages have been super cheap for the past couple of years because of COVID predominantly, and they're trying to pump more money, if you would, into the economy to keep things going. Guess what? It's going to backfire. Now we're already starting to see that. So what's happening, one of the first indicators that we're going to see, and I know Dee and I talked about this a little bit, and Joe probably to some extent as well, the increase in the rates for commercial mortgage lending and also residential mortgage lending is an indicator that we're going to head hopefully in the right direction, meaning there's going to be less of an ability for people to buy property. And there's going to naturally be things that are going to have to force people to sell because they can't keep up. If they have to refinance and the rates are higher now and they have a certain amount of income, their debt to income ratios and all these different things that matter if you get a mortgage may not work anymore. So you're going to have to go lower, but then they're either going to be not having enough to refi to pay off their current loan, or they're going to be forced to sell. You have then also coupled up with the foreclosure moratorium expiring in a lot of places. I saw this foreclosure starts are up 120-something% in the past month or whatever. So that's a good sign, if you would, as an investor. Point is this, though. Don't get caught up in the fact that you think anybody should not think that you just pick up a phone and start calling potential sellers and that people are going to start pouring over to want to give you their property, basically at a price that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's just not going to happen. What's going to likely happen is, though, you're going to see, I believe, in the next 3 to 6 months, an increase of supply that was otherwise held up for the past 2+ years based on these programs, based on restrictions that have been put in, mostly governmental restrictions, by allowing homeowners to live and landlords to suffice. What does that mean for us, though, as investors? That we need to prepare ourselves. If you haven't heard anybody say this, I'll be the first, but I doubt I'm the first one to say this. You must prepare to be ready to buy the properties, the deals that are going to come up. If you're buying to hold, for example, definitely be prepared, because you're going to get great deals that are like, 20 to 50%. I truly think in some point in the next 12 months, you're going to see some markets, like urban markets, drop by 20 to 50%. My opinion, personally, urban markets, key thing. First-time home buyers are going to be priced out. They can't do first-time home buyers. They can't do 3% down. They can't be doing FHA with all these crazy rates that they're charging now. It's going to be a lot less demand, which is going to reduce. When demand is reduced and supply increases, prices are going to shift. And the more the demand decreases, and the more the supply increases in a particular market, the quicker that shift's going to happen, and the more out of whack the market's going to become. And when stuff sit on the market and sellers have to sell or they're going to hit foreclosure, guess what they're going to do? They're going to sell for less. They don't go to foreclosure. And when enough of those transactions happen, then people get appraisals. What's going to happen? Appraisals creates comps for the next appraisal to happen, which creates another comp for the next appraisal, and so on and so forth. And the more transactional volume in a market, the more highly densely populated areas that have transactional volume that's greater than a suburban or rural market would be. Like, let's say Hillsborough, New Jersey, compared to Newark, New Jersey. Hillsborough, New Jersey, where our old office was, I don't know how many houses are there, but it's definitely like probably a quarter of the houses that are in Newark, New Jersey, I think. But let's say at least a quarter, maybe even less than a quarter. There's not going to be as many transactions, period. There's not going to be as many transactions in Hillsborough over a short period of time as there would be in Newark. Why does that matter, though? Well, it matters because when the economics change of the demand and the supply equation, it's about exponential impact in markets like Newark, where there's going to be a tremendous amount of more properties that have that problem, where there's like 50+% rental occupancy in Newark versus like, probably 15 or 10% in Hillsborough. And there's also now a reduction of demand in a market that people can't really afford to buy in Newark. Some of these people can't afford to buy there, but they've been allowed to because of different programs and great rates. So I'm just telling you, like, watch the urban markets. And if you're operating in, this is a PSA for the people listening to this message, and everybody you know needs to tell this, in my opinion, to everybody you know. Urban markets are going to see a fluctuation much faster and much probably greater, in my opinion, than you're going to see in other markets. And that's going to start happening, I believe, in this summer, personally, based on economic factors, what I'm seeing in the market, people I'm talking to, what I'm expecting based on just pure logic, if you would. This summer, it's only because there's a delay between the amount of time things happen, like rates going up, to people trying to buy houses, to the market adjusting. There's some factors there, right? So you'll start seeing price drops in those urban markets. You're going to start seeing less offers coming in. If you read articles about this, there's some houses are getting 20, 30 offers. They're going to get like 2 offers or 1 offer or no offers. And it's also, this one last thought is cash percentage versus finance percentage. This is big in Florida, right? So when I go down to the Southwest Florida RIA and I hear the guy who's running that meeting, who's been a realtor and a broker for 30+ years, talk about cash percentage. Every month he talks about this. He's a very smart, very data-driven guy. If the market has greater than 50% cash or even 30% cash percentage, meaning half the transactions are being bought in cash. Well, if they're like $500,000, $1 million, $2 million homes, that means it's pretty affluent market, and the market will be controlled based upon demand that exists based upon no financing needed. I mean, like, basically it's half the buyers don't need financing. They can just buy it cash. That's a pretty significant number. So those markets that are predominantly cash markets, that are not investors buying cash, but actual retail buyers buying cash. Key thing there, retail buyers buying cash in markets will not be affected nearly as fast as those with financed offers. So when you look at data and you look at markets that are getting finance offers predominantly, like 90+% financing, which happens to be the same urban markets that I'm talking to you about, and then you see the pressures on the financing side of rates rising, and then you see the supply increase and people can't keep up with the mortgage, all happening at the same time. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be the market in general. I'm just so everyone understands. It's not the entire real estate market, like the whole world's going to crash. No. But it's very likely, I think more than 75% likely that you're going to see a major 20+% adjustment, I believe. And I'm going on the record saying this stuff. Watch what happens. And we'll say urban markets will hit +% reductions by the end of this year, if not more than that. And for the JDL team to know, that's going to create opportunities for us also to buy in those markets as rentals. So the plan of buying rentals still exists for us as a company. The timing is questionable right now. And I'm in a lot of different discussions. I don't want to overpay by 20% or 10% for the matter. I want to pay the right price. If I can wait another 3 to 6 months to see some adjustments start to happen, I'll be patient, but I want to prepare myself. See, I'm like everybody else, just like our clients. You can't just go and expect to be ready to go all the time. You got to prepare yourself to go where you want to go. Part of the meeting, this meeting purpose is to be prepared, right? We're not here just to do stuff. We're here to talk about preparation for the next thing. So when you come to these meetings, and this is another PSA for the group, and I'll close up here for final thoughts, be prepared to get more prepared, if that makes any sense. So that's what the purpose of this meeting is. So if you hear this message after the fact, you're not sure if you should join the meeting every week, I'll tell you right now, it's not because of me. I'm just telling you, I'm relaying information that's coming from multiple places, and the conversations in these meetings are preparatory, if you would call that, for what's to come. So isn't that a smart thing to have, though, if you're trying to prepare? I need to be here. So that's all I had to say for today. Any final thoughts or questions?
The archive is going to be very strong. The archive of this video.
I said, I had a lot of things on my mind today about what's happening. I felt like it would be a waste not to have a meeting, and for you guys to hear it too. You're already here, so why not?
Oh yeah, you sounded pretty adamant. So listen closely.
It's like that Lion King song. The bad lion uncle is like, "Be prepared." I'm talking about. I don't know if you guys remember that movie or not.
You're definitely a dad of 3 young ones.
Yeah, right. It's Scar, I think it was Scar, and then he ends up trying to kill Simba, and he kills Simba's father, and they had that song, "Be prepared." I don't know, whatever. All right.
I can tell where the influence is coming from.
Yeah.
In addition to that, Douglas, as well, and for the benefit of everyone else who's made it this far to watching the video, this actually comes with a synopsis of everything that you've spoken about. And to add to what Joe said, it is a very hefty and solid material. There's plenty about the market and the computations, everything that they want to learn. They can practically learn in 60 minutes. I personally learned a lot. So yeah, it's a very beneficial video.
Awesome. I'm glad it was helpful for you guys. Dee, what do you want to say?
Cool. No, I didn't really want to say anything. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of it, and other people are saying pretty much the same thing that you're saying. But you went into it a little bit more. Like I go to meetings with my mortgage. I'm not going to as many as I should, but we have like Barry Habib and MBS Highway, and the things that he's saying. And I'm sure that you're you're in with real estate. You know what you're talking about. So yeah. Definitely, we're going to be seeing a change with it. The good news is it's going to be good for the investors, right? So
it's good, yeah. I mean, it's also good for the homeowners too, right? Because they can actually pay you real decent prices compared to what you see in some markets.
Yeah, the prices have been insane. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so good stuff. Well, I guess what I would say, thank you, Dee, for that as well, and thank you, Joe and Suzanne, for being here. I think I'm going to go on a whim here and say that since it's just us today talking, and since we had some good conversation, I would actually recommend that we take the recording and put it into the free group to let everyone in the group know what these meetings are like, and maybe have this be another reminder that they should consider joining us in these meetings. There was nothing confidential shared about anything. It was very specifically just about the market and different strategies. I think this would be a good showcase, if you would, of what we cover and the kind of topics we cover in the group program. So why don't we do that? Why don't we share this into the group once the recording is ready? If you guys can work on that, the goal is to help as many people as possible. So if we can do that with the people out there that are trusting us with some judgment, and also create some conversation. I'm curious to see what other people think about this, the concepts we talked about today. We could also take this video and put it into different parts, but that's another step. I don't think it's necessary for the purpose of putting it into the group. I think if we see other reasons to use the content, then let's do that. But for right now, let's download the recording, get it into the real estate investing mastermind group, and let's have that be out there, and let's see what people have to say about what we talked about today.
Let me just add one last thought. Anyone listening to this after the fact, which is everyone, keep in mind what you just heard Doug talk about is part of our mentorship program. It's very powerful. He's being very off the cuff. He's just going off experience. I know he sometimes gets embarrassed because I put him on a pedestal sometimes, but it's not about boosting his ego. It's just that he has the information that you want if you want to be a real estate investor. And if you want to be part of this mentorship program, the time is now, not yesterday. Remember, it's all about being present. The time is right now. Let's prepare, as Scar says,
That's right.
for the upcoming shift.
That's awesome, man. Now, on that note, I would say thank you, Joe. And Joe and Dee, for those of you that don't know, work in the business development section, if you would, of our company. So Joe is head of business development, and Dee's right there as business development lead, helping our clients and potential clients do what they want to do. And this is not a sales pitch by any means, but I'm just telling you right now that if you have any interest in talking about how we can help you here in this video after the fact, contact one or both of them. Suzanne is also right there. She's my personal assistant, my executive assistant as well. She knows how to navigate and direct people to the right place. But I know that you have two people here, Joe Irizarry and Dee Prouty, that are working with us that can help you accomplish what you're looking to accomplish. So reach out to them. There's no obligation to have anything after the call you have with them. Just talk about what the options look like. We don't put it in the video, any videos. We don't talk about specifics because that's subject to change. We have some really cool options available right now. So be sure to have a conversation with them and let's get going. With that being said, thank you all for being here and have a great rest of your day.
Okay, thanks. Bye, guys.